I want you to picture two people sitting at the same kitchen table on a Sunday evening. They are of the same age, they live in the same city, and they have similar jobs. The first person has a notebook open in front of him. Inside it is a color-coded budget categories, a 12-step debt snowball chart, a savings tracker, a separate spreadsheet for subscriptions, a bi-weekly investment calculator, and 3 different financial apps all synced to the same bank account. He has read 6 personal finance books this year. He follows 14 money influencers. He knows every rule, every framework, and every strategy. His savings account has $300 in it, while the second person has no notebook, no apps, no color-coded anything. He follows exactly 5 things he wrote on a sticky note 2 years ago and stuck to his fridge. It's still there, slightly yellowed, edges curling. He has 14 months of expenses saved. He invests every single month without thinking about it, and he sleeps at night without a knot in his stomach. One person is drowning in financial knowledge and broke. The other is financially calm and building real wealth with 5 sentences on a sticky note. This isn't a story about who's smarter. It's a story about what complexity does to execution and what simplicity does to results. I used to be the person with the notebook, the apps, the 12-step plans, and today I'm going to tell you the exact 5 simple things I switched to instead and why they worked when nothing else did. If you are new to my channel, do well to hit the subscribe button. Here's what nobody tells you about financial advice. Most of it is designed to sound impressive, not to be followed. Think about the rules you've been told. The 50-30-20 budget, the debt avalanche versus the debt snowball debate, the 4% withdrawal rule, dollar cost averaging across multiple asset classes, the emergency fund that should be 3 months for some people, 6 months for others, and 12 months if you're self-employed, but also maybe liquid, maybe not, depending on your risk tolerance and whether Mercury is in retrograde. Every one of those rules is technically correct, and yet most people who know them are still not saving enough. Why? Because complexity kills follow-through. Our brains are not designed to consistently execute multi-step systems under stress, fatigue, or temptation, and life is mostly stress, fatigue, or temptation. Here's what I noticed about myself. On days when I was rested, motivated, and things were going well, I could follow complex money systems. I'd categorize every transaction. I'd balance every budget line. I'd feel like a financial genius. But then a stressful week hit, or I got tired, or something unexpected happened, and the whole system collapsed because one misstep made the entire structure feel broken, so I'd abandon it entirely and tell myself I'd restart next month. Next month never came. I spent 3 years collecting financial rules I never consistently applied, 3 years of motion without progress, and then I stopped, deleted the apps, closed the spreadsheets, and asked myself the only question that actually mattered. What is the simplest version of this that I can do every single day, no matter what? The answer became 5 things, not 10, not 25. And they changed everything. Every personal finance expert tells you to budget, track every dollar, know where it all goes. That advice sounds responsible. In practice, for most people, it's a recipe for exhaustion and eventual failure. Here's what I did instead. On the day my paycheck arrives, before I pay a single bill, before I buy a single thing, I move a fixed amount directly into a savings and investment account. It leaves my checking account within hours of arriving. I never see it in my daily balance. It doesn't exist to me. What's left is what I live on. That's it, that's the whole system. No categories, no tracking, no guilt when I spend $80 on dinner because I felt like it. The important money is already gone to where it needs to be. Everything remaining is free to spend however I choose. Psychologists call this paying yourself first, but most people hear that advice and think it means saving whatever's left at the end of the month. That's not what it means. Whatever's left at the end of the month is zero. It's always zero. Humans spend what's available to spend. That's not a character flaw, that's human nature. The solution isn't to fight human nature, it's to engineer around it. When the money moves before you see it, you adapt your lifestyle to what remains. You don't feel deprived because your daily balance reflects your actual spending money, and your future is quietly being built in an account you've trained yourself to ignore. I went from saving almost nothing under a complex budget to consistently saving more than I ever had, simply by automating the decision so I never had to make it. Here's what used to happen when I had a detailed budget. I'd be standing in a store looking at something I wanted and I'd think, which category does this come from? Is this entertainment, clothing, personal care? Have I hit my limit in that category this month? Then I'd open my app, check the category, feel stressed, either buy it with guilt or walk away with resentment and go home and log it. That is not a sustainable relationship with money. I replaced it with a single question, one question, applied to every non-essential purchase. Will I still want this in 72 hours? I stopped buying things on the spot and started putting them in a cart, a wish list, or a note on my phone. Then I waited 3 days. If I still wanted it after 72 hours and I could afford it from my available spending money, I bought it without guilt. If the desire had faded, which it does for the majority of things, I bought nothing. This single habit eliminated an enormous amount of spending, not through discipline, not through willpower, simply through time. Most spending is emotional, not rational. We buy things because we're excited, bored, stressed, or we saw something appealing in the moment. 3 days later, the emotion has passed. The item doesn't seem as essential. The urgency disappears. The 72-hour question doesn't require tracking. It doesn't require categories. It requires only a pause. And that pause, that tiny gap between impulse and action, is where most financial decisions are actually won or lost. Every financial influencer tells you to track your net worth, watch it grow, celebrate the milestones. I did that, and I found that it made me obsess over numbers that I didn't fully control and didn't actually tell me what I needed to know. Instead, I started calculating what I call my freedom number, and it changed the way I think about money entirely. The freedom number is simple. Take your monthly expenses, multiply by the number of months you could survive without any income. That's your freedom number. That's how many months of freedom you currently own. When I first calculated mine, it was 0.8 months, less than 1 month of breathing room between me and disaster. Seeing that number was a gut punch I needed. I stopped asking how wealthy am I, and started asking how free am I. Those are different questions with radically different implications. Wealth in the conventional sense gets measured by cars, homes, visible status. Freedom gets measured by time and options, and once I understood that, I understood what I was actually trying to build. Every dollar I saved didn't just add to a net worth figure. It bought me another day, another week, another month of not being trapped. The money in my savings account wasn't just a number. It was the ability to walk away from a bad job, to handle a medical emergency without debt, to take a risk on something I actually wanted to do with my life. I check my freedom number monthly. It takes 3 minutes. It keeps me motivated in a way that net worth tracking never did, because it connects money to the thing money is actually for, which is choices. Right now, my freedom number is 14 months. Every month I work to increase it, not because I'm chasing a figure, but because I understand exactly what each additional month represents. Here's a trap that catches almost everyone with decent financial knowledge. They know they should spend less, so they try to optimize everything, find cheaper groceries, cancel a streaming service, brew coffee at home, cut little things in dozens of categories. This approach isn't wrong, it just misses where the real money is hiding. The biggest financial leaks in most people's lives are not small daily purchases. They're large fixed commitments that were made during good times and never re-evaluated. I call these anchors. They're expenses that felt reasonable when you signed up for them, that you've since stopped thinking about, that quietly drain money every single month regardless of whether they're providing value. The apartment you moved into when you earned less and then kept when you earned more, but also kept your spending proportional, so it went from affordable to stretched. The car payment on a vehicle you bought during an optimistic period that now represents a monthly obligation before a single discretionary dollar is spent. The subscriptions, memberships, and services that auto-renew because cancelling requires a phone call you keep putting off. The lifestyle upgrades that happened gradually during salary increases that you absorbed without thinking because they felt like small steps up. When I sat down and genuinely audited every fixed monthly commitment, I found things I had forgotten I was paying for. I found subscriptions to services I hadn't used in 8 months. I found an insurance policy that hadn't been requoted in 4 years despite better options being widely available. I wasn't optimizing the wrong things. I was trimming small purchases while ignoring the large anchors pulling my finances down. One afternoon of anchor auditing did more for my financial position than 6 months of daily expense tracking. The rule I now follow is simple. Every 6 months I review every automatic and recurring payment in my accounts, every single one. I ask whether I consciously chose this today, whether it's providing value proportional to its cost, and whether I'd set this up again if I had to make the decision fresh. Anything that fails, that review gets cancelled or renegotiated immediately. This is the one that took me longest to understand, and it's probably the most important. There is no perfect financial plan. I spent years trying to find it, the optimal savings rate, the perfect investment allocation, the ideal moment to start, the best account type for each goal. While I was searching for perfect, time was passing and I was doing almost nothing. Here's what I replaced it with. I defined a baseline, a floor, the minimum acceptable version of my financial life that I commit to maintaining no matter what else is happening. My baseline has 3 components. First, my automated savings transfer happens on payday. Every month, no exceptions. The amount might not be optimal. It might not be what the spreadsheet says it should be, but it happens. Second, I carry no high-interest consumer debt. If I acquire any, eliminating it becomes the only financial priority until it's gone. Third, I maintain at least 2 months of expenses in accessible savings at all times. That's it, 3 things, my baseline. Some months I do more, I invest extra, I increase my savings rate, I explore additional strategies, but those months are bonuses. The baseline is the contract I hold with my future self. Here's why this works when perfect plans don't. Life will interrupt your financial progress. Guaranteed. Medical expenses happen, jobs change, relationships shift, unexpected costs appear. The person with a complex plan has complex ways to fail. The person with a baseline has a floor they return to after every disruption. The baseline doesn't let me fall below a certain level, and because it's simple enough to maintain even during difficult periods, it actually gets maintained, consistently, month after month, year after year. Consistency over years is more powerful than perfection over months. I've watched people with sophisticated financial plans get derailed by life events and spend years recovering. I've watched people with simple baselines get hit by the same events and be back to normal within a few months because they never had far to fall. Let me bring you back to those 2 people at the kitchen table. The one with 14 months of savings and consistent investments didn't get there through complex systems. They got there through 5 simple commitments, executed consistently over time. Pay yourself before you pay anything else. Wait 72 hours before spending what isn't essential. Measure freedom, not just wealth. Audit the anchors, not just the small things. Protect the baseline before chasing the optimal. That's it, 5 things on a sticky note. Here's what I know after living on both sides of this divide. Complexity feels productive. It feels like you're taking your finances seriously when you have elaborate systems and detailed tracking and multiple apps synced together. But feeling productive and being productive are very different things. Simplicity feels almost irresponsible at first. 5 things, that's it, shouldn't this be harder? But simple systems survive contact with real life, complex systems don't. The financial industry benefits when personal finance feels complicated, when you feel like you need more knowledge, more tools, more advice before you can start. Every month you spend preparing to get your finances together is a month your money isn't moving. The 5 things I described are not sophisticated. They do not require expertise. They do not require you to understand market cycles, or tax optimization, or the mathematical relationship between variables in a Monte Carlo simulation. They require only that you do them, consistently, starting now. The person earning $52,000 with a stable, peaceful financial life isn't winning because they know more than you. They're winning because they stopped letting the search for the perfect plan become an excuse to avoid taking the simple action. You don't need a better system. You need fewer things to remember and more consistency in doing them. 5 things a sticky note, and the discipline to actually follow what you already know. The math, as always, strongly favors simplicity,